Welcome back to the PMC Project, the Positive Masculinity Crusade. Again, here with Ragnar and Abednego. I'm the Crusader today, October 11, 2020. Everybody listening in here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below if you're coming to us on a podcast. There'll be a subscribe button on there too. So make sure you can do that. That helps us out a lot. We've got a lot we want to jump into today. Lessons from Ragnar. That's our lesson today. Ragnar, this real life or mythical Viking hero of old, however you want to view all that. We got into this stuff quite a few months ago when we started digging into some of the things that we learned from the Viking series. I think initially it was on History Channel. I think you can find it now on some place, wherever. But you can go there and find that. The subtitle on this one's is Take Bold Action. Take bold action. And we've got, I think we ended up, and we could add some more by the time we get done, but I think we have 18 points right now. So I want to get started on this. Ragnar, I'm going to come to you early and often again on this. The first part on this, number one thing, what did we learn from Ragnar? And as we got together earlier, guys, off camera, we came up with this list of stuff. So I want to make sure we have these, kind of in order, but there's not a real particular order that matters so much per se. But number one is your word is law. Okay. And that's so important on that as we go. Ragnar, go ahead and take it away. Your word is law. That's number one.
I think in today's society, it kind of, you notice people with the press and things like that, whichever way the wind's blowing, that's kind of where opinion goes. There's very few people nowadays that just put a stake in the dirt and don't move it, And I think, especially politicians, we're coming up on an election now, and, they just take it. They take the temperature of the room, and then they'll alter their opinion to match that temperature. But anytime you do that, it puts you weak. Anytime you make a statement about something and then you change it because of external influence without a lot of vetting on your own part, it actually weakens you. It actually weakens your immune system. And so your word is law. You got to be able to accomplish anything in life, especially anything that's challenging. You have to be able to trust yourself. You got to know that when you say, I'm going to do this by this amount of time, and you tell yourself that, you're going to do it. Each time you fail to do that, you're going to weaken your self-image. You're going to weaken your drive, your willpower, your resiliency. All those things are going to drop. So you can start with small things, as maybe, I'm going to get up 15 minutes earlier, or I'm going to do this and that, exercise, I'm going to eat right, or whatever. You can start with these little wins to kind of build that word is law muscle. But eventually, when you say, I'm going to have this much money in the bank by this age, your word is such law that you know what's going to happen, or you're going to be missing an arm trying to do it. It's just without question, it's that belief, it's that faith. Your word is law. It's a faith that you have in yourself. Kind of the micro faith as compared to the faith in God, but it's a faith. My word is law. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to accomplish this. Or I'll die trying. My word is law. But you can't just jump from normal life into that the next day. It's got to be built up, especially if you've kind of broken covenant with yourself many times, as many people have. Then you can't just jump straight into that deep well of that initially. You have to build that up with small wins. But over a few months, you can really build that word is law muscle so that it's a foundation, it's a boundary, it's a buttress, so that when you stake a stake in this dirt and make your claim, it's not going to slide back. My word is law. This is going to be here, and then I'm going to go forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, on that one, it really leads us into number two. Again, finishing up on what you said there, Ragnar, your word is law. It goes right into number two, and it fits really well, because number two, and I'll say a little bit about that. Number two on this one is end every day on a net positive. Okay. I think it's really important, because what you're talking about, Ragnar, you can have a goal out there somewhere. I'm going to do this by the time I'm 40. Okay. By the time I'm 50, whatever. It's just hard to break that down over a 20-year deal. Okay. So break down those goals into smaller, attainable, incremental things that you can reach. Okay. And the biggest part of that, every day before you go to bed, finish on a net positive. Okay. Now, some people, that's too long for some people. It really is. So every day, maybe we need to monitor before noon. We're going to make sure we're still in the positive ledger on this. But one of the things that I've done that really helps me on that, I take a journal. Okay. And I just journal every day, and I put in there positive, negative, and then I can kind of take temperature as I go throughout the day. One of the things that we teach also is if there's a negative thing that comes into your life, it's a net negative in your life, whatever. Maybe somebody in the cubicle next to you, okay? Maybe they got cranked out on something and it turned into 2 hours of bad gas over here, okay? Or maybe a spouse, maybe a girlfriend, maybe some relationship, maybe your buddy, whatever. You sat around and wasted half your day doing some nonsense, okay? But you got to have a pattern interrupt on that. And that's one of the things that we learn. We see that in the show, on the Vikings show too. Okay, so as we go through this lesson here on the positive masculinity crusade on this particular lesson today, lessons from Ragnar, okay? Take bold action. We finished up number 1 with Ragnar there. Your word is law. You got to be honest to yourself. You got to have integrity. You got to have some internal authenticity. And that leads you, okay, how do you do that? You go into number 2 then. Number 2, again, end every day on a net positive, okay? And that's a really hard thing for everybody. But you had to clear boundaries. So if there's a little bit of negativity creeping in, you got to have a pattern interrupt on this and turn that around into a positive before you can go. One of the things I'm coming to you on number 3, Abednego, this whole idea about be decisive. Go ahead and take it away from there, buddy.
Yeah. Make a decision. I mean, make a decision and stick with it. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. I think sometimes we get in a bad decision vacuum. We just make bad decision after bad decision. And when you're in that vacuum, you just got to make the best decision that you can possibly make. And you got to work your way out of it, and we see in Vikings, I think Ragnar made lots of good decisions. But every now and then he'd make a bad decision, but you just got to keep going. You can't let one bad decision dictate who you are or dictate the rest of your future. And we're all going to make a bad decision down the line. So you just learn from it and you move on down the road. And that's what we see him doing all throughout that show, all throughout his lifetime, is he just wouldn't get hung up on a bad decision. He might have had a regrettable decision. I think with his first wife, he probably should have stayed with her. But
I vote for that too.
But you have to be decisive. And I think what attracted everybody to him was that he was very decisive, even when it went against what the authority at that time would say. He was so decisive that people wanted to follow him.
Yeah. On that decisive side, I'm going to come to you, Ragnar, again. But part of being decisive on that Abednego is have some conviction, right?
Yeah.
And when I come back to you on this, Ragnar, number 4 is have an opinion. And it leads right into that on the conviction side. Have an opinion. Number 4 on that. Go ahead, Ragnar, on have an opinion.
I think a lot of people today are so beat down by society. I know a lot of men have, instead of being 2/3 alpha, 1/3 beta, they're 2/3 beta, 1/3 alpha, if that. And they're so scared of confrontation, scared of hurting somebody's feelings. They've been brainwashed that you got to get along, happy wife, happy life, all this kind of stuff. And so they don't have they keep their opinions to themselves, or they let their opinions be easily swayed by the external environment around them, which comes back to self-esteem and self-image. But it goes back to, again, like what I said with word is law, you have to build that muscle over time. It doesn't take a year, but you have to build that muscle where you actually get in a little discussion with somebody and you express an opinion. If you're not used to doing that, if that's atrophied on you, it's going to be extremely uncomfortable to go out there and get into a 10-minute debate on something, because that muscle's just not there. But start getting those small wins. Start when you're having a little discussion, or you raise your hand in class, or you're having a discussion at work, whatever. Start introducing an opinion, and then, when somebody pushes back on it, listen to their viewpoint. You may alter your opinion if it's legit. But if it's not, if it's just they have a differing view, that's fine. Be okay with that. But don't change yours to appease them unless you feel it's the absolute right thing to do, unless your actual opinion has changed. But you need to build that muscle up, just like the word is law muscle. And then you get to the point where you deserve to be healthy too. You deserve to be successful too. You deserve to be happy too. And so to get those things, you'll have to have an opinion. You'll have to make your opinion known in those situations so you can get what you've decided that you want. That make sense?
Yeah, I think that's key. What you just said. You deserve to have an opinion in our world today, right? As we finish up with your side of that, number 4, have an opinion. So much in society just devalues, marginalizes everything about the individual. And if there's no individual, okay, no freedom of thought. Look at our world where we're at today. We got the thought police running around here. We have viewpoint discrimination everywhere. Okay. So yeah, Ragnar, absolutely. Have an opinion. Number 5, I'll take number 5 on this. Practice social dominance. Okay. And there's so many ways. This can be a whole other deal. We need to put this together. This can be a whole other deal. Okay. Whether that means don't put baby in the corner. I mean, we have all these terms now that are just a part of where we're at. Okay. And somewhere soon, we need to bring in the lion video again. Okay. It's just so hot, man. It's just so big. Okay. You know, that's something we need to do. But as you practice social dominance, there are times like the lion. Again, go to YouTube, Christopher Walken speech about the lion. Go check it out. Okay. Practice social dom. Every once in a while, you have to go tear into people. Now, you listen. I don't think you need to go look at Twitter and find out who goes and tears into everybody every day, because there are people who live that way. Okay. But practice social dominance. Okay. Now, this can mean on a date. This could be a deal where you called ahead, and you got reservations, and you don't necessarily want to sit where the hostess is trying to take you off into some back corner here. Okay. There are things like that, just little things that come up. Okay. Passing fit tests. We're going to have a whole thing on fit tests here in a minute. As we come back to you, we'll come back to you in a minute here, Ragnar, with passing fit tests. So we're going to get to that. Okay. But this whole idea about social dominance, listen, this is good for your woman. She knows that you have resources out here. You have connections. You're going to have food on the table. She doesn't have to worry about it. And anybody in your group of guys that you're around, okay? It doesn't mean you're some weirdo here, always have to have an opinion and interrupt everybody and this, me too. I got an answer. Not that way. Some insecure beta guy, okay? But practice social dominance. So you look somebody in the eye. You have a firm greeting. You have good audio. You have good voice control. You have a good firm handshake. These kind of things that are no longer part of our world anymore. I don't know when the last time anybody shook hands with younger generations. They don't understand. This isn't like grandpa out in the field.
Flipping switches too.
Total. This is all part of practicing social dominance. Okay. And so, Ragnar, we'll go to you in a minute on flipping switches. I'm going to go over here. You know what, Archie, can you go flipping switches? I got you down on this one. This is one that we developed. It's such an odd thing when we talk about all these terms that we've come up with. I remember when we came up with this. Archie, you can tell that a little bit and then get into what that means to you and how that flipping switches has worked on your mentality in the last year and a half.
Well, I mean, the flipping switches came from a concept of just a light switch. You turn a light switch on and all the lights come on, and you turn it off and lights go off, and you change the state of the room by just flipping a switch. And we take that concept into people, and how can we help change somebody into a positive state? And so I remember, like, when I went in for my surgery, my number one goal, I mean, obviously, was to get better. Number 2 goal was to flip everybody's switch that came in the door, to the point where I think everybody who has given me care wanted to be in my room because I was going to make their day better. And that was just my mindset. And, you know, when you're a person like that who can change the state of somebody, it's huge. It's huge as a leader. You know, they have the saying that says, nobody's really going to remember what you say, but they're all going to remember how you made them feel. And if you can be a person that is conscious about, I'm going to flip their switch, I'm going to flip their switch in a positive way. I mean, even if it's the gal taking your money at McDonald's and, you know, she's been there all day, it's a terrible job, and you put a smile on her face, man, that will take her the rest of the day. And so, you know, I think, you know, again, going back to the Ragnar thing, I think that this is another thing that he was able to do with people. he was able to change their state. And if you're going to have people follow you to death, you've got to be a person that can do that. And he would definitely was one that could do that.
I think that's a weird thing when you look back at that show.
Yeah.
Inspiring. I don't know, weird. Inspire. He had all these people signing up. As far as they know, there's some flat earth deal going on out here. Okay. And he had all these guys sign up to leave their family, jump on a boat with him. This is weird. And I'm going to get into that in a minute about the sundial and the bowl of water. Okay. Before we get to that, I want to come back to you, Ragnar, on this. I'm not even trying to have any subliminal programming on lessons from Ragnar, but also your Ragnar. Okay. But just, we can get over that. All right. Somebody has to know these are stage names for us. I can't be having the Crusader on my birth certificate. So all you people who are, really worried about all that kind of stuff, you can get over that. Ragnar, we're coming back to you on passing fit test. Number 6 or number 7. Let me review again. Number 4 was have an opinion. Number 5, practice social dominance. Okay. Number 6, we got a Abednego on there with flipping switches. And that leads us right back to Ragnar coming with us on number 7 on pass fit test. What do you got for us?
In the show The Vikings, he's married his initial wife, Lagatha.
Lagatha,
yeah.
Yep.
Stunning young woman, healthy young woman. I think three out of three say yes on that deal.
3 out of 3.
She's a strong-willed gal. She's a strong-willed woman, and there's times where she's coming in at him, and she's hot, she's upset, and she's coming at him, and he stays calm. He'll make a little twinkle in his eye, a little joke, and she's coming at him about something, or some other gal was looking at him, or whatever. He's looking at some other gal or whatever, and he just stays calm. She's throwing plates and everything else that he just holds her. He just grabs her so she can't hurt him, and he just stays calm and calms her down, and then he gives her a big kiss, and then she wraps around him, and then they cut away. But he stays calm in the storm. And not just that storm, but he's got leaders and superiors, the Earl, other people coming at him with fit test also. A couple of times there where if it goes sideways, he's going to lose his life. Maybe get executed and stuff. So he stays calm in that storm. He's the eye of the hurricane. He doesn't get flipped around in there, whether it's with his woman or with the Earl or other guys. He's in a combat situation. He takes a belly breath, he gets centered, and he deals with his business. He's not out of control. And that's how you see him several times pass those fit tests. Sometimes Muse mastery, sometimes just stone cold toughery, and other times he's, a little more joking around and stuff, but it's, he's always passing.
One of the things that we try to think about on that mental imagery, Ragnar, right? Come up with some kind of an archetype that you could be centered instantly, right? One of the ones we settled on early was Clint Eastwood. Was it Fistful of Dollars, right? Don't laugh at my mule, this kind of deal. If you could get centered, think back here, Clint Eastwood, okay? I don't remember Clint Eastwood ever running around, panicked out. He ran out of ammo. I don't remember him raising his voice ever, okay? So I know we're stuck on Ragnar today and lessons from but there's all these archetypes we can use, okay? One of the things, Ragnar, when you talk about, again, on passing fit test, number 7, passing fit test, I always liked on the Vikings. I hope I didn't like too much. When he grabbed Lagatha, he grabbed her hair right here, right? Listen, that got him centered. That got her centered right away. But he was not a caveman. She knows she's with a strong guy who can get her out of this mess. That's all she needs to know. Other than that, she's got her sword and her shield, and she's ready to go. Okay. But I think that's really important. One of the things that's important on that is because number 8 is this idea that came up that separated him from the old Earl. They had to go, and I don't want to get into any kind of spoilers right now, but they had a conflict early on. The old Earl, the boss, right? The Don. His big thing was, we're going to go raid all these people. We're going to only go east. But after a few years, it's like they don't have anything left to go raid anymore. But we keep hearing stuff about the Britons over on the west. And the old guy in town said, nah, you can't do that. You can't go on open ocean. You can't do this. So somewhere along the way, Ragnar came on this idea from some wandering dude that came around, taught him how to use a sundial. So they invented this sundial, and they put this in a bowl of water here. And now all of a sudden they're in this shallow bottom boat going across the ocean. They never did this before, the Vikings. I mean, someone has to always be the first. So that's number 8. You have to be willing to go out on faith. And when you go back to Ragnar in the Vikings show, his version of that initially, that we see very early on, right, is you have to be willing to cross the ocean with nothing except for a sundial and a bowl of water. And you have to have faith to do this. Okay. So when we go back and look at number 5, practice social dominance, you have to have enough moxie here, right, to be able to convince a boatload of guys that you can do this, and they're going to all put their lives in your hand. You're going to go do this. And I remember the meeting. Well, what? We're not going to do that. He says, how do you know? We don't know anything. He said, no, I got this sundial, a bowl of water. I mean, this had to seem like the most ridiculous, crazy, whacked out deal. What is it? And so I remember he brought it in, dramatic demonstration. Remember this, Ragnar? So he brings it in, he uncovers this thing he brings this sheet over, and here's this magical little sundial and a bowl of water. They're all looking around like some weird thing here they pulled out of the Cracker Jack box. Okay. But right away, his brother Rollo, who is a historical character, by the way, he's right away, I'm in. Okay, now we have social proof getting in here. But this on number 8, lessons from Ragnar. You have to be able to act on faith. On this particular lesson, number 8, you have to be able to go and cross the ocean with nothing more than a sundial and a bowl of water, okay? He put together his group of guys here. He created a mastermind, and that's what we're going to come to you with, Abednego. You're going to join a mastermind group. You got to get this figured out. Take us away on number 9, then join a mastermind group. Talk about that, because we have our group here looking at the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, we got precious cargo here, fellas. And so take it away on that, Abednego. Join a mastermind group.
Just like with Rollo, he had guys that were experts in their field. He had generals, if you would, that knew the terrain and they knew what to do. One of my favorites was Loki. I mean, that dude was loyal and he could build anything. His mind, even though he was kind of crazy, his mind was just outrageously fascinating. It really was. And the things that he could create with his mind, but he needed Ragnar to set a vision for him. Once he had a vision, then he could just go to town. And so, those mastermind groups, to me, is a way to be able to put your strength in with other people's strengths and gain even more strength as a group together. And so you create a sense of energy. There's accountability, because if you're in a true mastermind group, they're not gonna cut you slack. I mean, they're not gonna string you up, but they're not gonna let you off the hook either. If you said, hey, I'm gonna read 12 books this year, and it's coming toward the end of the year and you've only read 8, they're probably gonna get on you a little bit. And that's okay. That's what it's about. It's about pushing each other to be better. And so, you have those kind of things that are going on. And, it's super important. I know for me and for my own personal growth, I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I'm at today had it not been for this mastermind group that I'm in. And so, I think a lot about those, and definitely something that you want to be a part of. You're going to be limited as a leader. You are going to be the limit as the leader. You're going to bottleneck your organization. If you can bring other people alongside you that can help expand you, then it opens that bottleneck up more. And so, I think being in a mastermind group, no matter where you're at, and leadership is super important.
It's a really scary thing too, though, Abednego. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
It's a scary thing when you put your wares, like we say, put your wares before the queen. When you show all your people. So we come back. So masterminds I've been a part of, there's accountability, and that's built, you've got to have trust and all this stuff. Ragnar, we've been in those before. Okay. And okay, what's your homework for next week? What's your homework for next month? Man, listen, you don't bring your homework, you didn't do your deal, you just feel that shame because internally you said you do some stuff and you didn't do anything, man. All these people are bringing their projects here and talking about all their growth, the books and it. And if you're falling off the pace on this, so there's just an internal pressure on a mastermind, not only for accountability, but for growth side too. You know, Bendigo, when you talk about that, I want to come back to you, Ragnar, on this idea about, again, we're in the PMC group right now. And if you're joining us late on this, we're in the middle of a series or a show right now on lessons from Ragnar. You just finished up a Bendigo. Join a mastermind. We're going to come to you, Ragnar, on implement change. Shorten this idea between the idea and the action. That's a real great strength for yours that you talk about. If you can go into that a little bit on implement change.
Well, any task, any goal or any task that you're trying to accomplish has a series of steps, A through Z, 1 through 10, 1 through 15. But there's a critical inch or a leverage point there. That's the 80-20 rule, where about 6 of those steps will get you 80-90% where you need to go. And so a lot of people get, because of fear, because of low self-esteem, because of low self-image, they get in the paralysis by analysis, and they'll have an idea, they want to do a dream, they want to try something, they want to start a business, they want to ask that girl out, ask that guy out, whatever. But their self-esteem and self-image, their deserve level doesn't let them do that. And so one of the things, like with as far as asking somebody out for a date, or if you're trying to work in sales or do a pitch for anything you want to do in your life, is to set yourself up. There's a famous book out now called The 5-Second Rule. A lady wrote. There's also in as far as the intersectional dynamics community, there's a 3-second rule. If you see somebody you find attractive, you have to go and open them up or have a conversation or initiate some kind of contact with them within 3 seconds. Don't allow your subconscious fears to bubble up. Just keep it conscious. Because if you wait longer than about 3 to 10 seconds, your subconscious fears are going to start bubbling up and your self-talk start going to go negative and weaken you, and you won't do that. So whenever you have an idea, there's a kind of two-prong approach there. Number one, give yourself a certain time. Kind of set that ahead of time before you go into that situation. You know, when I come up with an idea, I'm going to vet that idea by a certain amount of time. I'm going to ask this person out in 5 seconds. I'm going to, whatever that is, whatever those fears are, you're going to set a goal to yourself, whether you wear a rubber band on your wrist, or in my case, I have a little thing here that I wear, and that's there. I have 7 disciplines that I do daily, and that's my 7 discipline band right there. And I see it 5,000 times a day, and it reminds me of my 7 disciplines that I do every day. And so, you know, the stuff I talk about is, I don't just talk about it. I mean, I actually practice it, and I only talk about stuff that I've actually used for successful results. And so you cut that action down. You have a decision. I'm going to set a timeline, and I'm going to do it. And then as soon as you set that timeline to do it, then go through the steps that you figure you got 15 steps to get from A to Z. Now, what of those steps are essential and what of those steps aren't essential? See if you can cut those steps down and drop that timeline down. Also, a lot of times, if you cut your timeline down, your creativity will start, because you're kind of lazy when you take your time. But if you cut your timeline down, it automatically jumpstarts your creativity in your subconscious to try to find solutions. If you ask yourself a question before you go to bed, in what way can I shorten the timeline of this goal? And then go to sleep. You do that 2 or 3 nights in a row, at some point, you're going to pop up in the shower and you're going to have 2 or 3 ideas of how to shorten that timeline without shortening the result. So does that explain that?
I really like it. You know, because we've all been a part of this discussion and part of accountability comes in where it's like, you know, man, I got all these great plans. And then someone tells you, yeah, but just go cut that all in half. There's a lot of reasons to do that, but, you know, and Bendigo, if you guys want to hear this,
it's not fun when they say it. It's like, how in the world am I going to cut that in half? But it's a good motivator.
Well, the other thing, but it's a catalyst. There's an accelerant in there that it's a multiplier effect on your creativity. Okay. Because now that's what you're doing. There's a hyper focus that goes into effect on here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, it'd be hard to talk about implementing change without what kind of accelerants and multipliers to put on, because you got to have a multiplier. Okay. And a mastermind group that you just talked about, Abednego, that's a huge multiplier. Okay. That's a really big thing. I want to go into, thanks for that, Ragnar. Number 10, implement change. Number 11, again, we're on the PMC group here. Lessons from Ragnar. Okay. Take bold action. Number 11 is career advancement. We saw this. Okay. And it's really hard. And I think you're not being authentic to yourself. And I think you're not being true to yourself. If you see an opportunity and you don't run through that door, okay. Ragnar pretty soon in life learned, you know what? I am way better than these clowns, these jokers who are running the place. And he felt it so strong, he had such conviction about this thing. And he had his whole mastermind group of people here. He just said, I've got to do, if I don't do this thing, they're going to find out a way to kill me here pretty soon. Okay. And so career advancement, you've got to be true to yourself. And we go back to all the way back to Ragnar, when you said this earlier, said, your word is law. If you have an opportunity for career advancement and you don't take that, number one, or number two, you're not hanging around with people who encourage you to do this thing. It ends up gnawing away at your subconscious, and it ends up keeping your deserve level way down here. The longer you stay in positions that keep this false ceiling on you, okay? So career advancement certainly does fall in that. And one of the best ways on that, it doesn't matter where you work. Somebody always asks for a volunteer. Man, put your hand up first. It doesn't matter. Kick this thing off the cliff. This is one, and I don't know that this is one of the concepts we have today, but this idea about kick the thing off the cliff and figure it out as you parachute down. Before you go splat, you better figure this thing down. Figure this thing out, how to solve this. But if you don't jump off the cliff, you're going to have all these excuses forever about why you can't do this thing, okay? So be confident. Have the right people around you. You don't have to worry. These right people will help you land softly. Every once in a while, you come in on a hard landing, but you'll be okay because they'll help you pick you up after that, either dust you off, get you back in the game. So that's number 11 on that, career advancement. Abednego, I'm coming to you. This has been really a big one for you, all of us, really. Be a lifelong learner. Number 12. Abednego, be a lifelong learner. I mean, your life has gone on a different, whacked out, crazy trajectory the last few years since we started this thing. I mean, me too. Okay, me too, honestly, for a lot of different reasons. But number 12, Abednego, take it away. Be a lifelong learner. I'm going to come back to you in a minute, Ragnar, right after that for continually work on your people skills. Okay, before we go to you, Abednego, be a lifelong learner.
You know, that's one of the things. If you're a disciple, you're a follower of Jesus, you're a disciple. A disciple, kind of by definition, is that you would be a lifelong learner, that you would continually learn about Jesus and what it means to follow him, and you'd learn about the Word of God, on and on. And so, you know, this idea about lifelong leader is one of those things. Is you need to read, and you need to find people who are intelligent that you can have conversations with. You need to find a mentor, if you can, and ask questions, ask good questions. But you need to, you know, have a place where you can grow. You know, we've had a video about protein, a place where you can take in protein. That's part of being a lifelong learner, and that's what one of the things I really liked about Ragnar in that series, is he was so curious about things. He was constantly wanting to learn about everything, you know. And they're like, oh, you go this way, and he's like, no, I think we all want to take boats and go this way. And you know, because he had heard about it, he had learned about this, and then he goes and he wants to learn all about England and all about what's going on there. And you know, he just an avid learner, and that just made him a better and better leader. The more he could learn, the better the leader he was. And so, you know, even with Athelstan and, you know, his pet Christian that he took in as a slave, man, he wanted to know everything. Like, I want to know all about you. I want to know about your Jesus, this Christian, you know, what it means to be a Christian. You know, and it was fascinating to see how curious he was about things. I think lifelong learner is just huge in life in general.
I think that's hard for everybody too. Okay. I mean, now listen, the more you're in a mastermind, the more you have this upward spiral it gets to be easier and easier because then it is part of your constitution. This is how you get to be constituted. This is how your expectation is. Man, if I don't get a call, for me, how is it in real life? If I don't get a call within a half day, honestly, for me, if I don't get a call within a half day from one of my guys, something's weird. Okay. What's your frequency on that, Ragnar? Take a time out on that. I bet someone's got to be calling you pretty soon, or else you're going to go check the weather and make sure there's not a tornado in when do you start to worry on this type of thing?
One more time, specifically what?
Yeah, for me, man, when you talk about what it means there, okay, to be a lifelong learner, the kind of people I hang around, man, if I don't hear from them, at least somebody calling me within a half a day, I'm starting to worry.
I want a steady supply of ideas and challenges from my inner circle, not like, rough, but I mean, as far as like, hey, I got an idea. What are you thinking? I'm dealing with this problem. It may be outside my realm completely, but I know human nature. I know human dynamics. I know life patterns. So what's the problem? Well, I got this and this. Well, if I don't know it myself, I may know a guy. I may have heard a story once. Have you thought about this? We just had a conversation during a break before we started this video about a dumpster in the corner of a church. I don't run a church. I'm not a pastor, but there's a way of kind of having a way to get in the flow and experience in the church that we talked about it. So a mastermind group, a guy can have some experience outside the main topic, but he recognizes a pattern there that maybe people that are inside don't see because they're just too close to it. And so, I mean, the Wright brothers were bicycle mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
The airplane guys couldn't fix it. I mean, they were too close to it. The guys were trying to do it, but the Wright brothers figured it out because their egos weren't involved. They weren't emotionally attached to all of it.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. Abednego, what kind of, man, it's going to be a weird day for you. I bet if you don't get a call every several hours, from somebody, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My phone sometimes just goes nonstop, which is fine, but yeah, it's, people, I like the idea of sharing that information and having people that can speak into your life. It's huge.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we'll go back and make sure we're on track here. I know we took a little time out there. Didn't mean to get everybody all freaked out, man. Number 12, Abednego, be a lifelong learner. Going to come to you, Ragnar, on this one. Continually work on people skills. We see Ragnar do that. Go ahead on that one, Ragnar, if you would.
Well, everything you're going to do in life, every dollar you're going to make, every time you have sex, everything you buy, everything you sell is going to happen through people. And you need to be able to influence those people. Now, you want to do it in an ethical way. It can be done unethically. You see that in cults and things like that. But you want to do it in an ethical way. But you want to have ways of influencing people so that it's a win-win for all involved. And the way to do that is people skills. Now, a beautiful thing, it's actually a tragedy, but a beautiful thing in today's society is because of technology, people skills are atrophied like crazy. And so if you can dig up the 1937 How to Win Friends and Influence People book and go through that, it doesn't take a whole lot of that now to really stand out. We talked about earlier about flipping switches, making people, the two things that I think that really make a big difference that I use every day in business, I teach my staff to do it, my kids, and I do it myself, is everybody has two invisible tattoos on their forehead. One says, make me feel safe. The other says, make me feel important. And I think if you can just, you can memorize techniques and this and that, But if you go into every interaction with another human being with that in your height of consciousness, make me feel safe, make me feel important, I think you'll find that a lot of doors open for you, and that you're welcomed in most places. I think you'll find that happen.
I think that's a hard thing, Ragnar, for most people, though, right? I think that's a really hard thing for people to continually work on their people skills. As we finish that up. Number 13, continually work on people skills. Number 14, I'm going to take this one. And, I've tried to do this forever. My mom would always say this to me, Dad, live this way. I talk about Dad. He passed away 6 years ago. Yesterday, October 10th. And yeah, just tough deal. And it's still painful, 6 years ago, but you guys were both there for me on a real high, on that speed dial. Okay. And I think because they always lived this way. When we go back to Ragnar, again, we're on the PMC show here. Lessons from Ragnar is what this one is. Okay. And number 14, live a fascinating life. Okay. Live a fascinating, listen, if you're gonna, it's like property. Okay. Man, if you're gonna go buy property, buy something that's interesting. Okay. If you're gonna go buy a house, build a house, you got to at least Abednego have a 5/4, right? On the
at least a 5/4.
Listen, have something interesting. Have a story to tell. Who have you been talking to? Who have you been interviewing? Okay. I've interviewed some fascinating people in my life. Okay. Over the years, I used to do this 30 years ago. I call people and interview them. I remember back in the day, this was 1991, 92. Joe Paterno was still around at the time, and I called him at his home phone. And his wife picked up the phone, and this is before all the weirdo stuff went on at Penn State, but at the time he was the top of the college football world, and, his wife answered the phone, actually. She screened everything. And I just got his number. This was before cell phones and block numbers and everything, and I told this, she wouldn't let me talk to him. Okay. And so I got through the call screener and he jumped on the phone, Joe Paterno. Okay. This is back in the day. And so there's been many others like this. Okay. And I asked him, why on earth is your phone listed, man? You're head coach at Penn State. All this stuff. And he said, and he had that crazy voice he has. And he said, Andy, and he didn't know me from anybody. Okay. And I still remember the same old office. I was sitting back at South Umpqua High School, Myrtle Creek, Oregon. I was a school to work coordinator at the time. And I had a few minutes. I called him. He said, Andy, that's really funny, but we always left it in a public number for reasons like this. And you wouldn't believe all the people that have called me. They needed me. Some knew me. Some didn't know me. We left that there because if anybody didn't know who else to reach, they could call me. Okay. And so it was just one of those things. There's been so many others. My dad he went for 13 months and he lived at the South Pole. I think he was 65 at the time, some crazy thing. He just felt this is one of the things that he and Mom lived out in Ethiopia for a couple of years. They were in the first group that went on the Peace Corps back to Ethiopia back in the day. Met JFK, Haile Selassie, all these people. Listen, it doesn't take a whole lot to be interesting, people. Do something a little bit. Turn your TV off. Put the phone down, right? Go do something else. Go walk around outside. Go meet somebody new. Go do something. Check into self-help program. They're free all over the place, right? If you want to go watch Tony Robbins, that's great. Do that deal. But you can do it free. Don't let that be an excuse for you on the money side. You couldn't afford it. You couldn't get a plane ticket, COVID, whatever. Okay. And what we see from Ragnar on the show, this guy was just infinitely fascinating. And when he walked into a place, he just had this quality. He just sucked all the oxygen out of the air and took all the energy away. And it's hard not to, go back and laugh about some of that stuff that he did. Okay. You can be that. All right. I'm watching right now the John Adams series. I don't remember if that's HBO or what. It was 19, 20 years ago. I don't remember. Listen, a guy stood up among 13 of his peers, okay, when they all got together to figure out what to do about the Boston Massacre. And it was like the old show, you guys remember this, it's the old Henry Fonda show, 12 Angry Men. Henry Fonda stood up in that jury room and said, "I don't think so, guys." And they hated him because they all want to go home that night. Okay, and it was hot in there and all this stuff. And there's this, it's a tremendous show. Go back and watch that. 12 Angry Men, Henry Fonda. Okay. But the John Adams thing, he stood up in front of God and country and said, "No, it's enough. It's enough. King George and all that, they don't decide, and they don't get a vote over here." Listen, be fascinating. Number 14, live a fascinating life. Guys, it doesn't take too much. It really doesn't. Change your bandwidth a little bit, right? Look around. Do something different. Again, Positive Masculinity Crusade here, PMC Group. This show, Lessons from Ragnar, Take Bold Action. That was number 14. I'm going to go back to you on Bendigo. Have an active lifestyle, okay? I'm going to follow up with that, Ragnar. After that, we're going to diet. You're going to take that one. I'm going to go back to you, Bendigo, right now with this one on have an active lifestyle. What does that mean? We've been through a lot, buddy. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's really easy to get stagnant. It's really easy to, you go home, you sit down and you get comfortable, and, then you start to watch some TV, and before you know it, you spent the whole night and you didn't accomplish a darn thing. And so you're not really at a net positive so much. And so to me, an active lifestyle is going out and getting some stuff done. Whatever that is, you've got your list of things that you want to accomplish, that you want to do, that you go out and you do some of those things. Maybe it's just that I'm going to get more fit, and so I'm going to get on my bike and I'm going to ride a bike for a little bit, or I'm going to take a walk, or, whatever that is. Your body plays a huge part in how you feel overall. And so, you want to have that active lifestyle where you are getting some regular exercise and things like that. If you think about bodies of water, you usually don't want to drink from something that's stagnant for a long time. You usually want some fresh water, and the fresh water is a flowing water. It's active water. And so, to be active, I think keep moving is so important. And you see that with Ragnar. He was hardly ever stationary. It was almost like he had an itch. He had to go. He had to be on the move all the time. And, I think there's something to that. It adds excitement to your life, and it adds longevity to your life as well.
Have an active lifestyle. That can go in a lot of ways. Mentally, okay? Physically, your sex life. Listen, we're talking about the Vikings show, right? I can't believe we don't have a number on here. Have an active sex life. I mean, come on. We can put that on the bonus side. Have an active lifestyle. Number 15. Number 16, diet. Ragnar, this is right in your wheelhouse on diet. Go ahead and take it away on diet for us before as we get ready to close it out.
Well, I tend to live about 85% with the kind of primal paleo philosophy of fitness and food, and have for probably 10 years now. And it just, obviously back then they were hunter-gatherers mostly. And so there's not a lot of obesity. They're mostly fat burners, not sugar burners. So they don't have the crashes, insulin crashes and things like that with their diet. They could go 10, 12 hours without eating a meal. And then when they did eat the meal, it was, from garden to plate, or from the butcher to the plate. There wasn't processes and things like that. There's nothing packaged per se. It may be smoke cured, salt cured, but it's just trying to eat more in a hunter-gatherer diet. And if you do that, we talked about cancer earlier and stuff. Most of your cancers, so many of your diseases are insulin resistant dependent, and cancer feeds on sugar. There's just so much out there that the modern diet is just horrendous for bone density, muscle mass, for brain function. Alzheimer's is my father just passed away from that, and Alzheimer's is, what the research is called Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes, because high insulin is such a precursor for Alzheimer's and dementia. So And also, it passes the look good naked test. If you like to have sex, you know, you want to try to bring the right product to the table on that deal. So it helps pass the you don't look bad naked test too. And so that's always a good sign for that. But and also it works. It makes things work. You know, you get into an obesity situation, your estrogen goes up, things like that. You start having some circulatory problems, some dysfunction, things like that going on too, impotence and stuff. So it helps with that too. But just quality of life, it's just your energy's off the chart when you do more of a primal paleo type situation. And I've done all kinds for decades and my whole life. I've always been kind of a fit nut, but for the last 10 years or so, once I saw the signs on the primal and the paleo stuff, I've went that direction, and I won't go back until I'm dead. I'll never change that. So I'm there about 80-85% of the time. I cheat a little bit, and a little cotton candy periodically, but anyway, that's what I recommend. And so if you're going to live that these other 18 that we're talking about, this lifestyle and all this kind of stuff, you have to have the energy to do that. You know, another thing too, I want to just add part of that is along with this diet, and Crusader mentioned the active sex life, but there's also you can't get through an episode of Vikings without seeing self-defense, self-preservation, physical violence. He knew how to fight, and he knew how to fight well. He knew how to fight with weapons. He knew how to fight with his hands. He could maintain his state during those confrontations and stay centered. So I think combative skills and be able to have self-defense, protect yourself and your family are essential as part of those traits from Ragnar too. Okay.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and add that. So Ragnar, you finished up diet. I'm going to put in there 18. Okay. Self-defense, man, get yourself ready for some stuff. Okay. When the zombies come, it's time for the apocalypse. You better know how to handle yourself. Okay. So I want to go ahead and add that one in there on the fly here. Number 18 or 17, self-defense. All right. Get yourself ready. It goes along with active lifestyle, diet. I'm going to go ahead and just for all you playing at home today, I want to make sure we're all up to date on this. Number 18, I want to that's push your comfort zone. I'm going to go add 19. Okay. 19, I think it fits in well with 1921. We'll just call it 19. Okay. That's a bonus. That's a bonus for you all. And we didn't talk about this in our other stuff, but that is one of our foundations we have. I'm going to finish out 20 here in a second. Abednego with you about be able to tap some steam, but let me go on these two. In 18, push your comfort zone. It goes along with a lot. I'm not going to go into this too much because it goes a lot with what we've talked about, mastermind and the self-accountability side and a group accountability. Okay. So that's a really hard one because with people's deserve level where they are nowadays, people don't even think they deserve to eat a meal that day, and that's how bad it is out there. So it's really hard for people to push their comfort zones, okay? And that's part of kicking the thing off the cliff, having the faith to do this. Number 17 that we talked about there, Ragnar, self-defense. Number 18, push your comfort zone. Number 19, as we get ready to close out, number 19, it's this concept 1921, we call it, okay, based on a Harvard study. I think it was 2017 Harvard study. It says really, you have to have a healthy, regular sexual outlet 19 to 21 times a month. And that will reduce your chances for prostate cancer and other related difficulties, okay? But again, you know, Abednego, you talked about being stagnant. If you're not keeping things flowing, one of the things we talk about, right, Ragnar? Let it flow, bro, okay? No shame. You're built to let this deal flow. But again, if you do the math on this, 19 to 21 times a month, you need a sexual release, sexual outlet. Come on now. Come on. So 1921 is to stay healthy on this thing. Now, you say, well, that's a real stretch. I don't know if we learned that from Vikings. Listen, if you were watching some other Viking show, if you didn't learn that from Ragnar, okay, you were watching something else. So I don't think it'd be a real good review of that. Lessons from Ragnar. You got to have healthy and regular sex. Okay. So again, I'm going to do a rundown on all of them, but again, we're in the PMC show right now. I'm going to come to you on this as we close out Abednego, but I'm going to do a whole review on all 20 of these now. Nice round number, by the way. PMC show, Positive Masculinity Crusade. Lessons from Ragnar. Okay, take bold action. Help us out here, Abednego, on the last one, and be able to tap some of that steam off. Tell us what that means.
Yeah, well, tapping steam off, you know, you can talk about it obviously from a sexual side and the need to do that. And we can really back that up biblically because, you know, the Bible really speaks to that your marriage is basically a sexual contract, and that the only time that you should withhold from each other is for prayer and fasting, and then you come back together so that Satan can't get a foothold. And then so if you in a month, if you take aside the part where they would be unclean because of their period, and you take a time away for prayer and fasting, you're in that 19 to 21 time grouping. And so, yeah, I mean, that's important to do that, to tap that steam in that way. But I also think your mind can get gummed up with steam, with stuff. You know, maybe it's regrets you have in your life. Maybe it's sin that you're carrying around in your life. And you can carry that in your mind, you know, and I think we got to have a way to, you know, not just in a sexual sense to tap off steam, but to tap off the steam that's building up in our mind and before our head, you know, explodes. And so if you think about in James 5:16, it tells us that we need to confess our sins to one another and pray for one another. And that if we do that, then we'd be healed. And I think there's this process of, I've just got to get it out. I just got to be able to vocalize this to somebody else. All this is building up. I've got this shame that I'm attaching to that. I'm placing myself in a shame prison because of what I feel like is wrong, or that I did wrong, or the sin that I'm carrying around. And just to be able to verbalize that to somebody else who's not going to shame me and condemn me, but that's going to pray for me. It's a way to release that, you know, and I really think, you know, Ragnar had that with people. You know, he could have that with Floki as he would interact with him, but he had that with Athelstan, probably more than anybody. Just the ability to be able to go, hey, I'm thinking about doing this crazy thing. What do you think? And, you know, Athelstan would tell him what he thought. And, you know, but just to be able to vocalize that and get it out there and have that verbal processing process just take off in his head, I think was huge. And so, you know, you got to be able to tap off the steam. If we don't, that's what's going to cause stress and anxiety and all that other stuff in your life. You got to get rid of it.
That's a really hard thing in our society. I'm not talking about going on Twitter or Instagram and getting on a rant. Okay, I'm not, listen, I'm talking about on an intimate level with people who are accountable to you and you're accountable to them. Okay, as it talks back in James, you mentioned that on 5:16. You've got to have a way to get rid of some guilt, some shame. And without that, you're just carrying around this duffel bag of garbage all the time. We got to set up, you know, some trash section in the back of the church working. That's called dump stuff, okay? Ragnar, again, I'm going to give a nod to you on that. That's your deal, okay? But we need to apply this, see, okay? Again, the Crusader here for Ragnar, for Abednego, October 11, 2020, finishing up. Lessons from Ragnar, the Positive Masculinity Crusade. Lessons from Ragnar. I'm going to go back through there. If you guys have anything at the end, make sure you stop me before I hit the stop button, all right? Number 1 is your word is law. Number 2, end every day on a net positive, okay? Number 3, be decisive. Number 4, have an opinion. Number 5, lessons from Ragnar. Practice social dominance. Number 6, flip switches. Number 7, pass fit tests. Number 8, cross the ocean with a sundial and a bowl of water. Brings us to number 9 on lessons from Ragnar. Join a mastermind group. Number 10, implement change in your life. Number 11, don't be afraid about career advancement. Okay, advance yourself in your career. Number 12, be a lifelong learner. Number 13, continually work on people skills. Old books, new books, whatever. They're free and you can get them. Continually work on people skills. Number 14, live a fascinating life. Number 15 on this, that was 14, live a fascinating life. Number 15, have an active lifestyle. 16, be in control of your diet. Okay. You talked about that, Ragnar, paleo, primal style, getting back to basics. Number 17, be active in self-defense preparation. Number 18, push your comfort zone. Number 19 is 1921, healthy and regular sexual outlet. Be sure to maintain that for your own internal plumbing, for your own relationship health, okay? And number 20, finished up there with the Abednego, be able to have a mechanism in place where you can tap some steam on a regular basis. Get rid of shame, get rid of things in your life, but have a confident group that you can take in confidence, and they can go over these guys. Before we close out, any last thoughts? Tremendous, guys. Thanks for being here. Ragnar, any final thoughts before we close out?
I just think if this list right here, that's a lifelong pursuit right there. You know, that's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah.
That covers everything. Really, that's all you need. Just check. You know, Ben Franklin had 13 that he went through virtues that he did every day. He his whole life, and he has I just bought another copy of his autobiography yesterday, and I couldn't find my other one from years ago. I'm gonna reread it here over the winter. But he had his virtues that he put down every day, and he just every 13 days it just started over, and he just did that his whole life. And I think these 20 lessons from Ragnar here, you could start out and have one every day for 20 days and just keep doing that your whole life. And I think you'd have a pretty solid life going on.
Yeah, I just really do. Abednego, any final thoughts before we close out?
I definitely agree with that. To me, I'm just looking at it going, man, this is a checklist for a compassionate alpha. You know, if that's what you want to be in your life, here's your checklist. Just go check it off.
I think it's really important to keep going back to that, okay? Jesus was that. We talked about the 5 C's of Christ-like communication. Again, this is not about we left Jesus off. I know some of you church people, just take it easy, all right? Settle down. Oh, I didn't see Jesus. Well, wait a minute. Listen, all right, we did that show. And we're going to do more of those shows. But on this, we're just having fun with lessons from Ragnar, okay? Crusader here signing off for Ragnar and Abednego. Ragnar, no relation. Okay, I got to make sure we all know where we're at. Lessons from Ragnar. Take bold action. You guys have a great week. Thanks for being here. We'll check back with you another time. You guys have a great day.